Skeptics of Reddit, what is the one conspiracy theory that you believe to be true? There is absolutely no reason for contact cases to be as large as they are except to increase the amount of saline solution needed to cover your contact lenses. Big saline companies are out to get us. I don't necessarily agree with that, but if you follow the instructions on the bottle, they tell you to use an exorbitant amount of solution. You're supposed to rinse each for 10 seconds, both sides of each contact, the case, the mirror, your toothbrush, your cereal bowl and spoon. Take 2 bottles and spray it in the air whilst waving your hands back and forth. That the BBC brought on Chris Evans to host the new Top Gear knowing full well that everyone would hate him. Then, once they replaced him with someone better for the next season, people would compare the new host to Chris Evans and not Jeremy Clarkson, so people would like the new Top Gear more. That Michael Jordan was suspended by the NBA for gambling and they covered it up as his baseball era. The NBA had too much to lose tarnishing Jordan's name. I thought he just went to play basketball with animals against aliens to save the world. Guys, I don't want to sound like I'm sitting here wearing a tinfoil hat or anything, but I think OJ Simpson killed those people. That is preposterous. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Conspiracy theorists and anti-conspiracy theorists both think of themselves as skeptics, so this thread proves this conspiracy is correct. Beyoncé was never really pregnant with Blue Ivy in 2011. Beyoncé is highly controlling of her public image and is more than capable of pulling this off. Beyoncé's pregnant belly inflated and deflated throughout her pregnancy. In one interview, her pregnant belly appears to collapse. In interviews, she would mess up and say inconsistent due dates, not messing up by a few days, but by a month. Despite being one of the most talked about celebrity pregnancies, there is no leaked information about the birth. During the birth, we know Beyoncé and Jay sectioned off an entire wing of Lenox Hill Hospital. I can see wanting some privacy, but what were they hiding that they had to shut off a whole wing? Theory: Beyoncé's career is highly dependent on her body and keeping it tight, or they might have fertility issues. Bey and Jay paid a surrogate to carry their baby, then shut down a whole wing of the hospital so no one would know Beyoncé never gave birth and wouldn't see the surrogate. No photos were released of Bey shortly after the pregnancy because people would have been able to tell she hadn't just been pregnant. This got me looking so crazy right now. Hot dogs are sold in packs of 12. Hot dog buns are sold in packs of 8. If you want enough hot dogs to go with buns and vice versa, you have to buy 2 packs of hot dogs and 3 packs of buns. Otherwise you're left with some useless leftovers. I'm on to you, hot dog mafia. One of the greatest scenes in Father of the Bride is when George explains the annoyance of this whilst removing the superfluous buns. Always cracks me up. It's very possible that we shot down Flight 93. I was in the Air Force from 08-14 as a crew chief. During I met multiple people that were stationed at Langley AFB in DC that said we definitely scrambled F-16s that day from that base, and some of them came back with less armament than they took off with. It's horrible to think we would do this, but it does make sense. 2 planes have hit the towers, 1 on the Pentagon, and now you got a plane that is not responding to any callbacks. What do you do? Again, it's horrible, but in my opinion that plane has got to come down. If all this is true though, the skeptic in me is surprised the length at which the government has gone with the stories of cell phone calls, heroics, the movie and such. Fellow AF guy here, the debris field was 30 miles long. We definitely shot that bee down. I've heard similar stories through the grapevine. Soccer will never be popular in America because the broadcasters have no desire to create demand for it. It's essentially 45 minutes of commercial-free programming. Who wants that? Success of football and baseball is directly linked to their built-in ability to have breaks for commercials. Air those games all the time. The advertisers have chosen America's interest, and it is impossible to change without broadcast support. Similar reason no one wants to promote hockey in America because it really doesn't lend itself to broadcast advertising. That's kinda not right about hockey. Ads are a pain in the ass when you watch it in Canada. I believe the government created Throwback Thursday so they could get all of our old pictures in their databases. Facebook wants you to tag people. That anti-dandruff shampoos temporarily get rid of dandruff but somehow dry your scalp out even more over time, so it worsens your dandruff when you stop using it. That Harvey Milk's death was about more than his being gay. Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone were part of the more left-wing faction in San Francisco politics that wanted, among other things, to figure out a solution for the rent increases that were pricing long-time residents out of the city. Other members of the Board of Supervisors, like Dianne Feinstein, were quite liberal by national standards but were firmly in the pocket of real estate developers. When Dan White quit his post as a member of the board, it meant that they lost one of their most pro-business members, and since Moscone was going to get to appoint White's successor, they'd end up with someone who was really strong on the anti-gentrification side instead. Since the board was already closely split, this would represent a critical realignment in city politics. When the real estate developers and the police association, who were among former police officer Dan White's strongest supporters, they had meetings where they offered him various things if he'd try to get his old job back. He agreed, and Moscone appeared to be considering it initially, but Milk went to Moscone and jammed this idea up. After this, White shot Milk and Moscone. Dianne Feinstein replaced Moscone as mayor and used that position to appoint more moderates to the empty seats on the council. The chief of police, who was well liked by the gay community but roundly hated by his own rank and file, was fired. Dan White was given 7 years in jail for a double murder, served 5, and today a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco rents for $3,500 a month. There isn't enough hard evidence to really accuse anyone of anything, and yet it's breathtaking how all these big power players seem to get what they wanted because of the actions of a lone nut. Women's pants don't have usable pockets, so they have to buy purses. I have a few female friends that buy men's skinny jeans just to have the pockets. That RNGN's.com is rigged. I know they're rookies, but WTF is the chance of missing 4 60% shots in a row? I bet my left testicle that any shot where the chance is displayed below 85% might as well be a 10%, and I don't care what you say, you can't convince me otherwise. I don't necessarily trust our 2 cats. When I walk into the room, they look at me, separate and go their own ways. Lip balm temporarily makes your lips feel moisturized and soft, but dries out your lips over time, so you end up buying more. This is absolutely true. I needed to use some for dry lips in grade 5. I've been using it daily since. That was 25 years ago. Call me paranoid, but I'm a subscriber to the idea that we're being spied on. At any moment, the NSA can tap into my camera and microphone on my phone and observe me. Not that they would want to observe me, but I think they can do that to anyone. This OP asked about theories. I think you posted a fact. That Stephen Hawking's computer is actually the first self-aware AI, just using him as a pawn. I believe Area 51 was a base for building and testing new top-secret aircraft. When the government denied its obvious existence, it took on a lot of interest from the conspiracy theorist world. The US government now works to maintain the mystery around the base in order to maintain the focus of the conspiracy theorist community and distract them from the actual things going on elsewhere. I'm not sure this is so much a conspiracy theory. Anyone who's not tinfoil hat nuts knows it's just an Air Force base where they test their new jets. The government obviously aren't going to admit it, so just let people think what they like. When TV companies brought out HD UHD Blu-ray, they lowered the quality of standard TV. This isn't necessarily a conspiracy. CRTs are just much better at displaying standard TV than LCDs, but worse, and much more expensive, at HD. Used to think all prisons were filled sociopaths and murderers, until I started interning at one and seeing it from the inside. There's definitely something shady going on with corporations and the free labor. Totally convinced our criminal justice system was designed to keep slavery around. That huge prison strike going on in the US, the biggest prison strike in US history, specifically said it was in order to end modern day slavery. Crap, California is losing tons of money from the strike as we speak. We shouldn't be losing tons of freaking money because our prisons are not working. That's just sick. I got a 9/11 conspiracy, but not that one. I find it highly suspicious that they were in such a hurry to remove all the steel. Not because I believe that they are trying to cover up an explosion. but I do believe it's a conspiracy to hide insurance trouble. I do believe the steel beams weren't up to standards and thus failed before they should have done. Removing all traces of the steel beams avoided an insurance catastrophe. Yep, I believe this too. I remember hearing stories on the news after 9/11 about how there were issues with flame retardants and that there were shortcuts in the building of WTC. The World Trade Center was built in the 60s when the mob was more in control of unions, and to skim more money from the project, certain things internally were skipped. Things like fireproofing. It's not a conspiracy. We're told to design that way. You put heat generating components near heat sensitive components so they degrade and break. The trick is to design them close enough to break, but far enough to not break under warranty. I knew it. That Smash Bros conspiracy where they already have the characters they want for the new game picked out, but they let us vote to make us think we have some power. Well done. It's called community engagement. Smash Bros is way more about advertising than I think people recognize. It's literally the reason Fire Emblem caught on in America. Madeleine McCann's parents done fricked up. Osama bin Laden was executed and dumped in the ocean, Soprano style, because it was pragmatic to avoid the difficulties of incarceration before trial and what might come to light during the trial. I think they would have done so even if he had nothing damning to say at all, just to avoid giving him a public forum to rally supporters. Taylor Swift is a 4chan user. That aliens know we're here, and potentially visit the Earth from time to time. Now, while there is definitely life on other planets, just think statistically about how many planets there are. It's gotta happen more than once, right? I used to seriously doubt that aliens actually came here. It just doesn't make much sense. The main problem I saw was that there would be no logical motive for aliens to visit us but not want any direct contact. That's like going to a party, but sneaking around outside rather than going in. A while ago, however, someone else on Reddit pointed out that there are tribes deep in the Amazon rainforest who have never contacted the outside world. In fact, it's actually illegal to visit them. They're being preserved and observed, but primarily preserved. What that fellow Redditor was suggesting was that there may be some type of advanced alien civilization who know we're here, but avoid direct contact in order to preserve us and our way of life. Sure, we're talking pretty unimaginable technologies here, but then, if you brought one of those Amazonian tribesmen out and told him we can get to the moon and talk with anyone we want in the world, that would just blow his mind. I'm a fan of the lost cosmonaut theory, the idea that the Russians were cutting a lot of corners to be the first in space, and so Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man in space, just the first to make it back alive. That there are child sex rings with some high profile people involved. Watch the documentary that's on Netflix called Who Took Johnny. It sort of deals with what you're talking about. That for the conspiracies proven to be true, MKULTRA comes to mind. We've likely only seen the tip of the iceberg. There's a theory that Beyoncé is 7 years older than she says she is. 1974 versus 1981. If you watch Destiny's Child videos from 98 or 99, does she look like a teenager or someone in her mid-20s? Plus Gabrielle Union slipped about Beyoncé being the same age. She was getting popular the same time as Britney Spears, so she didn't want to be several years older. Honestly, I'm not normally one for these, but I can't help but believe, when faced with the overwhelming evidence, that King of the Hill was cancelled due to Dale's theories being uncomfortably close to the truth. You have been visited by the Pope Doggo. Comment 4 times and he will bless you with lots of good luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.